Hello. I was just making a live video on Facebook and it disconnected me, and I've had other problems with Facebook Live over the last month or so to where suddenly I don't have that problem on my camera system where I go elsewhere, but with Facebook Live, I have been having troubles. So let me see if I can finish this video. I was discussing Gerivify and the four phases of Gerivify. I have a small board here that I'm illustrating with here in my Dallas apartment because again I'm not in Kaufman, Texas at my office out there. I'm hours away from there. So the first three phases of Gerivify, the algorithm, can be brought eventually to the masses of Earth, which I think is pretty amazing, to where we can finally, after a certain length of time, after Gerivify, the algorithm and system has been developed and is and is well on its way to where I have all the equipment needed built, and I do know and realize there's going to be great science research rise up from my Gerivify that's going to be involved in nutritional research and other things such as this, and I will need organic chemists and different people to formulate the serum and to help me study what rises up from my Gerivify. But the first three phases of Gerivify are absolutely amazing, and they can be brought to the masses. But the fourth phase is a very, very amazing phase, and it involves the first three phases, naturally, the serum, the foods, all these things. But the fourth phase involves all technology, all science truly, and it is just going to be absolutely amazing for whoever can afford it. The people I look at as far as being able to receive the fourth phase of Gerivify is people, excuse my eyes here, I was feeling stinging, so I will go ahead and put on my glasses here. But the Gerivify fourth phase will be for people such as Michael Grieve of Germany, such as the American Peter Diamandis, such as Peter Thiel, such as Peter Nygaard. Should we research the name Peter? It seems we have a lot of people named Peter that are great achievers, so that's for another day, but I've thought about that. What is it with Peter? But men such as Jim Mellon and others of the world that are billionaires, to where they themselves, an individual man, could come with his money and invest 1 billion, whatever the case may be, in Gerivify, and we can have them set up in the fourth phase of Gerivify within 5 to 10 years, set up in the fourth phase of Gerivify, to where then their family, all the researchers, all the longevity activists of the earth, I feel should be involved in the fourth phase. Some people have told me, man, that's wrong. I'm saying to you that the fourth phase is so extensive and so financially hungry that it needs money to bring it into being so desperately that only a chosen few can be involved in Gerivify, the fourth phase, and this phase will bring them, their children, their family, their co-workers, the production workers, all the people involved in Gerivify, the fourth phase, will be involved in the most magnificent form of Gerivify, to where they will have the opportunity and the possibility of living many centuries and then even becoming immortal. And this is all due to the structure of the body. The human body has a protective system of the human body that's called the human somatic cell cycle, that replaces every cell of the body within 7 to 10 years. Without that natural inborn system by our genome, by the great creator of our body, the stem cell, if this system wasn't in place, we could not anyone think of ever being immortal. But due to the fact we have a self-repair system, that when a good cell comes along, a healthy cell that is no longer infected, no longer has the disease, and then it begins to reproduce and function as a cured cell is supposed to function, instead of dying within days, instead of dying within months, it can live decades. One cell of our body living a decade, a century. The only way mankind can become immortal is if our entire cell system becomes immortal. Our cell system is under attack by what I have named the senesonic and the synzonic pandemic plague that infects all eukaryotic animal cells. Every animal cell on Earth, even most of the plant cells on Earth, are infected with the senesonic and the synzonic pandemic plague that individually kills eukaryotic cells individually. To where the men and women that was in science biology research years ago, they decided after finding certain things such as bacteriocins, such as certain analogues that were being made by bacteria and certain fungus and yeast and even some viruses, they were thinking, well, these things are actually helping us. So microbes and the mankind live in symbiosis. In those days, science didn't really look at mankind as a cell. I have done all I can over the last decade and more trying to make people realize that we ourselves are cells, and we are supposed to realize that we are in a eukaryotic war. We are a eukaryotic microbe cell, a life form that is in a war against the death forms that I call all the bacteria, the viruses, the fungus, the yeast, the phages, the molds, all microbes on Earth. When they come into the human body, they make destructive chemicals that scientists long ago termed as a symbiotic, a symbiont existence between mankind and bacteria, because they've seen those eukaryotic-like chemicals being made by bacteria entering the cells of mankind. And because mankind didn't drop dead immediately, and because the cell didn't die immediately, the cell would go on living for another 30 minutes, another hour, another 2 hours, another week. So they was thinking, well, this is not a deadly thing to mankind, this is helping us. But being science has never had a body, especially a human body, that has never had a microbe in them, that has never had these toxins pumped into them to examine, they felt all these years since they first discovered it that these things were good for mankind. But since those days of the original discovery of these chemicals being made by bacteria, that the NIH, the National Institute of Health, and many universities and many independent labs and many independent researchers had down through the decades now called making eukaryotic-like peptides, eukaryotic-like proteins, eukaryotic-like vitamins. Making these things, and scientists of the past dubbed them as good and being a symbiotic relationship between bacteria and man and microbes and man, and that has been so false, so horribly false. It didn't cause us to drop dead, but science since then has discovered these same toxins cause some people to have depression, cause some people to be schizophrenic, cause some people to have bipolarism, cause some people to be constantly stressed and depressed, cause stomach and bowel and body ailments. Now they're coming into Rodney's realm. I've been telling them for years, those things are killing us. Now there's been scientists discover that certain mycobacteria and certain other microbes, such as E. coli, Pseudomonas aeruginosa, these bacteria make vitamin-like chemicals to kill other bacteria like themselves, or to kill other bacteria that's not of their strain, of their species, whatever the case may be. That's what they are doing with the eukaryotic cells of mankind, and causing our cells to mutate, then die, which eventually brings us into old age because our cells are finally so badly poisoned by these constant cocktails that develop between all these toxins and these singular toxins coming in from bacteria that are destroying our individual cells, causing them to live only days, causing them to live only months, causing them to live only hours, causing our stem cells to live only 3 years and sometimes more, now proven by science. So what am I saying, ladies and gentlemen? The cause of aging has been right before the eyes of science. Scientists have seen under microscopes and seen other bacteria make eukaryotic-like vitamins, amino acid formulas that they would make, such as rosoflavin, that they make to kill other bacteria and other microbes, eukaryotic strains of microbes, such as yeast. They find that they make the same kind of chemicals that each one of them need to kill other bacteria. Then scientists will watch under the microscope after they poison the other bacteria, and scientists have filmed this under a microscope, and they watch that bacteria that was infected by this poison, another strain of E. coli or whatever the case may be. They'll watch that single bacteria, they'll watch it, and it'll begin to mutate. It'll begin to become misformed. Then suddenly it begins to swell. Then suddenly it lyses, and suddenly it comes forth. There'll be many phages, or there'll be many enzymes. There'll be more of these bacteria come from it that infected it, or it will just die due to the poison, because that one particular strain of bacteria made that analog that looked like something they needed, and they ingested it, and then that one single cell died. The poor scientists of the past, they didn't have that new data. So when they seen this taking place, they said, this is helping mankind. We're living in symbiosis. No, ladies and gentlemen, we have been under a massive attack, a massive poisoning, a slow, long snake bite, a slow, long spider bite, to where a snake or a spider bites mankind, we can die immediately. And it begins the necrosis, the dying of the skin and the muscles around it immediately, the cells bursting and dying immediately. And they find in these toxins, in these poisons made by these snakes and spiders, are some of these same analogues that are made by bacteria. But they're in such large quantities and shot into one area of the body, it kills all those cells there and can then enter into the body and begin to destroy the heart, some of them, and destroy heart cells and brain cells, and finally kill us from this snake bite or whatever. So what is this poisoning, this tiny venomous creature, this animal, the Antony van Leeuwenhoek's animals that he named, little animals that he first found when he invented a more complicated microscope, and he found the little animals. What are these little animals doing to us? They are causing us to die cell by cell with a long, slow poisoning over our 100 years. Our cell system, thanks be to the great creator of life, the stem cell, the mighty creator of life, the stem cell, our cells can replicate and replace themselves. When cells die, the stem cell can hurry up and come and replace that cell, divide itself off and become that cell, make itself a white blood cell, and then go on to do more work. But it is slowly poisoned also. What we are receiving is a long, slow poisoning, as though we've been stung by a black widow, as though we've been stung by a brown recluse, as though we have been stung by a snake from Australia or an American snake, where they analyze their venoms and they find in the complicated mixture of the poisonous venoms of snakes are involved with the same analogs that the bacteria make, are made in a great abundance by the snakes, the spiders, even fish in the ocean, different things making these venoms. But what am I saying? Our body is slowly being bitten to death, slowly being poisoned to death. We are decomposing while we live due to a long, slow snake bite, a long, slow spider bite, due to a long, slow poisoning with eukaryotic-like peptides and amino acid formulas, as the NIH, the National Institute of Health, has studied extensively. And they always come to the end of their studies, well, this is all fine and good, but we can't figure out why bacteria pump these things into our stomach all the time, because we can live easily from the amino acids and the proteins that we get from nature. They can't figure out why these bacteria, viruses, all these things are pumping out the day long into our body these eukaryotic-like amino formulas, peptides. So what have we learned here, ladies and gentlemen? I'm teaching you that the reason we age is we're being slowly murdered, killed by the gut jungle of our body, by the bacteria that land on our skin and excrete poisons into our cells each day and even enter our body through our cell filters. We are killed the day long by the bacteria we breathe into our body. They enter our lungs and enter in through our veins, our vessels in our lungs, blood vessels. They also enter us through the liquids we drink and the surfaces we touch. Anytime we touch something, these toxins on the surface of what we touch enter our skin cell and enter our mouth when we touch anything on these surfaces. A long, slow poisoning. I've talked about this with scientists, and well, it can't be stopped. Well, they're wrong. I found a cure. I found a cure for this poisonous toxin cocktail that comes into our body. What did I make? What have I formulated? I have not made it in my production laboratory yet, because I need the laboratory. But I went into the other data of science throughout history, modern day science, science of the past, the history of mankind. I went into it, and I came out of there with the most perfect formula, serum, elixir, that becomes a cocktail when I join it together, that goes in and battles the cocktail sent into our body by the murderers, the killers of our cell system, the killers of the eukaryotic cell. I, Rodney Barry, have made an amazing serum out of the data of the body of science. It's an extensive serum, but it will go in and counteract the poisons from these beasts, these animals of Anthony van Leeuwenhoek, who discovered them, and he named them rightly so. He called them little animals. Since then, science has called them bacteria. It called them microbes. But Anthony was more than correct. 4 centuries ago, nearly, Anthony named them little animals, and they want to destroy us, and they want to eat our body, is basically what it amounts to. They want to destroy mankind. I have found a cure, but my Gerivify will cure the masses to an extent, to a certain extent. But the 4th phase of Gerivify is so amazing, takes so much growth of organics, takes so much technology, takes so much effort, that only those that are in the nucleus of the building longevity movement. Every time I meet somebody in the longevity movement, just on social media, just by watching them, I say, I want to make sure that man lives. I want to make sure that man is involved in my Gerivify. Who else would deserve the 4th phase of Gerivify, excuse my jaw, I fractured it long ago. But who else would deserve Gerivify more than those who believed that death and aging could be ended, than those that knew that death and aging could be cured? The investors, the partners, the volunteers, the organic chemists, the scientists involved, the engineers that's going to be involved, the workers. I don't care if they're just cleaning the bathrooms. If they're involved in Jerivify, they will be healed. Them and their family. Who else would deserve this more greatly, the fourth phase of Jerivify, than those involved in bringing the mindset of mankind to the reality that we can now become not only people that live for centuries, we can even strive for immortality. Men, again, such as Michael Grieve, Peter Diamondis, Peter Thiel, Peter Nygaard, Jim Mellon, many others. We can gather millionaires. As you see on my website, I'm always in search for partners, investors, and I do so each day. I get people that question me. I go to angel investors, and they're always saying, if you can get further down the line, I will invest with you. I've had 4 people on angel investment tell me they like what they heard. They love it, but they said I did not have enough assets, that I wasn't further enough along in production to impress them yet, but they did love what I was speaking of, and they wanted to later on, after I've developed it, to get involved. And naturally I think, well, later on, I may not need you, you know. I need investors right now. I need donors. I need sponsors. I need people to help me get to conferences to find these wonderful, amazing people that I say deserve to live centuries instead of mere decades. My name's Rodney Barry. I wanted to expand upon Jerivify. I have people asking me about it all the time, and I wanted to expand upon it. And I'm again here. I'm into 20 minutes, so I'm going to end this video. But I want you to understand that we can. There's people that say it's horrible, that no one has the right to live, to be immortal, if all of society cannot do the same. Well, I'm sorry, that's not true. Just because it's such a complicated thing to do, just because only a small few, let's say 100,000, let's say 200,000 can become what we could call immortal, just because only they could afford to, and only they would have the mindset and the character and the mind to step into such a venture. If they're the ones that did it, they're the ones supposed to become immortal. Now, as I say, my first 3 phases of Jerivify can eventually bring the masses into 200 years, 300 years of life. And I think that's amazing. But my 4th phase of Jerivify will bring the longevity community as a whole into them and their family. Will bring them into the possibility of immortality, especially their children. A brand new generation of people that will not only grow strong and healthy, they will live for centuries instead of mere decades, along with their rejuvenated mothers and fathers. My name is Rodney Barry. I just had to expand on this. I have people asking me, and I have people telling me that I'm wrong for saying that I can't bring the whole world into immortality. I mean, to me, immortality is living 1,000 years or more. You could die at 1,001. I say the man was immortal. He lived 1,000 years. But to bring everyone there is an impossibility. But the Jerivify algorithm, serum, and the 4th phase of Jerivify, the algorithm, will bring people into many centuries of life, and it will be the most amazing event to take place in the history of science and technology. The science that will rise up from Jerivify is just amazing to think about. And the people that, whether it's one billionaire, whether it's a group of billionaires, whether it's a group of millionaires, whether it's a group of thousands upon thousands of individual donors, they all come together and do this. They will go down in history as the greatest thinkers, the greatest doers of the history of the humanities of the human being on earth. The greatest human beings And the only reason we've got to this point is due to the giants that got us to this day in time through their study of mathematics, of astrology, astronomy, all these things. Astrophysics, physics, organic chemistry. All the sciences is involved in Derivify the algorithm. If I can take 200,000 people into immortality, would that be wrong? Can anyone tell me that that would be wrong? If we could together do this, bring the masses of earth into 200, 300 years of life, would this be a horrible thing? I meet people almost every day on social media. I have people contact me. I meet them individually, face to face. When I come in conversation, they say that we gotta die if we can't save everybody. If everybody can't have the opportunity for immortality, that we all must die with them. That's, I guess, probably the most insane thing I have ever heard. My name is Rodney Barry. Please enjoy my website and my posts, and please become a sponsor for me to go to conferences and talk to the great men and women around the world. And please invest and become a partner with me in the future of our families, in the future of mankind, in the future of Derivify the algorithm, the culmination of the science of the human being, of the Homo sapien. My name's Rodney Barry. Please have a good day.